some people are joining us because they saw that we're going to be talking about weight loss, but they may not necessarily know about the details that we might be exploring. So there's a, why do you think that weight loss is so elusive, especially, for in America?
That's an interesting and a very big question. I think we were just talking about it a little bit before the show, how much life has changed within let's say, the last 50 years. We were definitely more active in the time of agriculture, where we were working outside every day, and what we would put in our mouth in those days was what was coming from the land. So it was all made of by our mother, and even me. I mean, certainly not a young individual, but do remember that my mother, what she was cooking was basically everything that was, coming from our garden, or, as healthy as possible, even if we were not at the time plant-based. So that is a big factor. Nowadays, we're a lot more inactive. Just look at us now, sitting in front of a computer. That's what we do. And also the fact that our surrounding of what is offered to us, restaurant, and the food that, it's hard not to say junk food, but a lot of what is exposed to us is, these kind of food. And therefore, by mixing those two elements, being a little less active and eating a little bit more, and sometimes a lot more, then it has consistently shift our weight, and we've been gaining, unfortunately, weight, which is not muscle. Actually, it's been a little bit more fat than what we would like to. So that's the progression of what we've seen. I think I had mentioned that with my last episode, when I did work in my master's degree in exercise and obesity and physiology. At the time, I was in Quebec, and it was the same thing all over. I think that the obesity level at the time was around 10 to 12%. Can you believe that? This was, that's it, 30 years ago. And what's the level now? 30%. So this little increase that I'm talking about, of decrease being active, increase, it's just creep up on you. You don't necessarily realize it. But I have to admit that the last few years, maybe 10, because of the adding of so much junk food. Like, just look at the sugary beverage. I mean, there is so much calorie in sugar that is very easily, creep up on us. So that's simple, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and people now, they're really trying to tighten the bolts here, and they're just so tired of trying so many different methods of losing weight, and they see the pills and the potions and the programs and the meal plans, and sometimes they may get some short-term results, and then only to go back out and maybe even gain more weight, and they call that yo-yoing. And really, and it wasn't until, for me, I was overweight. I wasn't obese. I was overweight, but as you saw in the introduction, my husband was, he needed to lose a lot more than I did. And for all of us, I think, I mean, we're just trying to fight against our human nature. You can only hold your breath for so long, and then you have to take another breath, and to do without eating, which is what most of these programs will do. They'll either tell you to eat less, or they'll tell you to eat, potions and pills that are supposed to trick your body. I guess we're just living human animals, and it's not going to happen. We really need to learn more about what the foods are that we need to eat, that are lower in calories, but also there just happen to be more nutrient dense. And when I learned about this lifestyle, I was just so excited, because I like to eat. And I think most people do. So you are an MD with plant-based telehealth,
Yeah.
and you help people with their medical issues that they may come to you with, but you also kind of guide them to become healthier by maybe adopting this lifestyle. Do you want to talk a little bit about the lifestyle for those that aren't familiar with it, or maybe they need a little reboot?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so the plant-based telehealth, I mean, obviously it says plant-based, but a lot of the physician there, which we are, I think we're 9 now, we are, all, let's see, pretty much all of us are board certified in lifestyle medicine. So when you think about it, personally, when I tell a little bit of my story, is that I've always been passionate about helping people to be healthy. And I could see that my patient, I'm an OBGYN as well. So my patient were growing older and growing, really gaining weight. So I'm a constant learner and researcher. So this is where I basically found the American College of Lifestyle Medicine when it was almost starting, like around 2012. And so I became a member to the conference every year, and then board certification started in 2017. So first year I got board certified, and I also became the medical director and also a fellow of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. So it just shows that the American College, the lifestyle medicine, the physician, and also other provider have noticed that, wait a minute, something is going on here. And it's a lot of that related to our lifestyle. So if you look at the health, 80% of the money that was spent in healthcare, which is now 3.1 trillion. That's a lot of money. 80% of that is related to chronic disease. And chronic disease is most of the time related to our lifestyle. So when we think about lifestyle, is that, what is it that we eat, the movement, the stress, the sleep, obviously, alcohol or cigarettes, and the environment. So it is this element that appear to be so simple, but they are the main reason of us to be healthy or unhealthy. So those are the lifestyle, the pillar that we talk about in the lifestyle medicine. And that's where we have people that come to discuss with us at plant-based telehealth. Those are the biggest elements. So there's some physician group of us. Some are, very good about diabetes. Obviously, me as a previous OBGYN, a lot of women will come and see me regarding hot flashes or irregular bleeding or what they can do. They also don't know sufficiently that I'm passionate about exercise. So if you are somebody who wants to become a better understanding of what to do to be healthier, eating better, or even have kids, even if they're not female, I'm certainly good with young girl. Because of my previous work, I'd be happy to help. So it's one of my passion when I was younger was definitely the exercise, which I've always kept all my life. So, this is something I can talk all day long, and it since I've had the chance to speak with your group the last time. So I
Yes,
think this gives you a little bit of a orientation of how we do it.
that's excellent. And we'll put a link for that previous broadcast that you did on exercise, which was really excellent. And it's so refreshing to have access to a physician that actually walks the walk and talks the talk, and you will know more about these exercise and weight loss and things like that. And because I think that's a big deal for people.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut you. And people will ask me, I'm not like you. I'm so boring. I think I've weighed about the same all my life. Just totally boring. Hasn't, but I wasn't, a plant-based prior to go to the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. But I was, most likely probably vegetarian, kind of eating a lot of more fish. And now, once I went to the American College and I had the chance to see the studies, believe it or not, we're physician and we're not really trained so well in nutrition. And I consider myself wasn't too bad compared to a lot of my fellow. But when I went to the American College and I had the chance to see studies with Dean Ornish, assistant, it kind of blow your mind. And then, that's where I started, kind of putting this into my practice. My family, friends, makes a big difference, the plant-based.
Yeah, and okay, so you didn't really have weight to lose, but still, when you found out about the lifestyle, you adopted it
Mm.
because you, as a physician, knew that that weight loss it's a vanity thing, but it is more than that because it does have to do with health when you have excess fat. But for you, you knew that it was health promoting, and you knew the science, and so it's not really boring. It's somebody that didn't have to do it but did it
Well,
anyway,
that's
right?
a good way to look at it. It's just that a lot of time, especially we're talking about, weight loss, they look
Yeah,
at me and they say, they're probably going to think, well, what does she have to say
yeah.
about
They
this?
want the big story. So, "No, sorry,
Exactly.
it's
So,
not a big story."
but you're thinking about future generation. I've always said that my vision in life for what I do is coaching a village to health. This is by thinking about our future generation. We want to make sure that they don't do the mistake we've
Yeah,
made, because it's hard, but we've been exposed to a lot of food, lots of lobbying that is made and studies that are made to make sure that the food is really appealing to us, but unfortunately has a lot of calories where it's very difficult for us. And then you become addicted to the sugar, to the fat. And so this is where it becomes very, very difficult, is this addiction that comes with it, where people have difficulty and struggle to try to get rid of it.
yeah. Well, we're gonna try to include some of our viewers and listeners, and we're gonna play our game of true or false. So let's get a question up here. True or false?
It's time for True or False on Be Green with Amy Live. Answer true or false to Amy's questions in the comments below, and Amy will ask our guest for the expert answer.
Okay, here's the first question, guys. True or false? If you have family members who are overweight, you'll also be overweight. It's in our genes. So I see a smile from Dr. Fontaine. So she's going to give us her answer for this question. And you guys can just type it in and just for fun. So what do you say, Dr. Fontaine?
So oh my gosh, I cannot tell you how often I have this answer to the people that come to my office that say, well, we're all like this. It's most likely family related. There is a small portion of people that will have a tendency to have a characteristic of being obese family, but the majority of people are gaining weight in their family because they all have the same lifestyle, which is exactly what I've mentioned earlier. We tend to eat the same thing, which is not exactly the best, and we tend to be less active. So when you say, if you live with somebody that is obese, you have 50% a chance of becoming obese, family or not. It's related to the lifestyle that you adopt together. So, it's such an important thing to say that if you come, the impact that I can have on an individual is not as great as if I can get an impact into the system. So if I help you to think about differently about who you can be and what you can eat, but I send you back into an environment that is surrounded with fast food, it's going to be difficult. So this is important to be able to send a message so that people understand that it needs to be also a work and effort into the system. And that's where I'd like to make an impact.
Yeah. I think that somebody had said something that it's not the genes that runs in your family. It's the recipes that runs in your family.
That's not a good way to say it. Absolutely. Mm-mm.
Okay, so we have another true or false for you guys. True or false, as long as you exercise at least 30 minutes a day, you'll lose weight. Okay, what do you have to say about that, Dr. Fontaine?
Oh, there's so many things to say about that, So 30 minutes of movement a day, will potentially go to the minimal amount of exercise that is recommended. It doesn't mean that it's going to help you to lose weight. If you continue eating the same food that potentially is not healthy, or the quantity, depending of what is it that you continue eating, it's not going to be sufficient. I always tell people that, this little 20 to 30 minutes exercise you do is not bad, but you need to be active the rest of the day. We're in this society now where we don't have to move. So you got to make the effort of, if you're on a computer, just put it in line that you're going to stand up and go for a little walk, or you're going to stand like me. I'm at the computer, I'm standing, not every session that I do, but I try to do some session, that I'm standing. And you see Dr. Greger now that does everything on his,
on his treadmill.
treadmill.
I think he said that he
How do you
walks
say that
about
in English?
17 miles a day on his treadmill because
There
he
you
does so
go.
many interviews.
Now that is good. I don't know to what
That's
extent
ambitious.
he does some weight or resistant training, but especially for us at our age. Well, you're younger than I am, but me, I got to make sure that I maintain my muscle mass, because and the muscle is what burns the energy. So you can't just, female, especially women, think about it's just the aerobic exercise. So they want to walk for an hour, but they don't do anything that support the muscle mass. So I just want to reinforce a lot of things we've discussed the last time, or even for osteoporosis, that is very important to be careful and do that.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, let's see. We have another true or false. Okay, guys, let's see if you can answer this one. True or false? All calories are equal. That's a good one.
Yeah, calorie is a calorie, but and I think you have a good slide there.
Yes, I think so. Let's talk
Perfect.
about that.
Yeah, this is so perfect, because I think it is important to be able to visualize this. I thank you for putting that up in all of the books, or often presentation. We will use that so that people realize that here's how, when you look at the counted quantity. So it doesn't necessarily talk about the quantity here, but let's just say that you take half a cup of oil, and you compare it to, you can almost eat two big bowl of vegetable, and you're about 1/10 of the calorie that has into. So there's another picture, we don't have it here, but that shows the quantity of the calorie into your stomach. And if you put the oil, it's about that much, and you have 4,000, and then the whole stomach is full with vegetable, and you have about 200 calories. And it shows you that, obviously with that oil at the bottom, you're still going to be hungry. But when you fill it up with all these amazing vegetable or whatever else that is whole plant based, then you're going to feel like, okay, this is good. I got enough. And, you're not going to get all these wrong calories. So you really have to be careful. So you see into the bottom, into the red one, that I would consider most of these, obviously, being part of the fast food that we tend to eat, and we don't realize it. So some of these are, plant, like the avocado, and not bad, but you got to be careful that that's one of those that you cannot eat, let's say, as much as you want to. And then at the very bottom too, there's the nuts and the seeds. They're excellent, but you cannot eat too much of those. And actually, for some categories of individual that maybe has a significant heart disease, we probably would recommend that the oil, nuts, seeds would be eliminated in order to help them to really regain as much as possible. So I really like that. So you certainly had the chance. It's well done, a nice one. Thank you for putting that up. I don't know if anybody has any question, but it's very visual there.
Yeah, it is. Nice to look at it sometimes and remind ourselves. Okay, we have another true or false. As long as the food you eat is vegan, it's healthy and will promote weight loss. I'm going to check my mic while you answer that.
You're going to check what?
I'm going to check on my microphone while you answer that.
Oh, okay, okay. First of all, you got to be careful because
Right.
we're talking about whole plant-based versus vegan. Vegan often will include, quote unquote, the fast food vegan. So the food industry has definitely understood very well that the people are more interested with the whole plant-based. So what they've done is they adapt a lot of what they're producing that are quote unquote vegan, but they're not the most healthier option. Like you'll find some, I don't know, the chips that are more vegan, or the chickpeas, or whatever there is, even the what's replacing the hamburger. I mean, you got to be careful. Lots of that has plenty of salt, so keep an eye on all this. So I just want to make sure people realize that there's a difference between a whole plant-based diet and vegan. So we tend to say that the vegan is more food that contains a little bit more processed plant-based.
Yep, that is important, because I know that people will often look at labels and get, and not necessarily ingredients, but when they look at packages, they'll see things that are on the front of a package and it'll say vegan,
Organic.
or organic, right?
Let's buy everything that is organic, as opposed to paying attention and being very careful sometimes, especially, if you see the sugar, but the salt, for God's sake, there's so much salt. And if you have a tendency or borderline high blood pressure, keep an eye on the salt. There's way, way too much salt in most of the things that we buy that are already prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially the processed food industry, they make a science out of knowing how much salt and sugar to put in the foods, and they know, they have test groups and they do MRIs on brains, and they figure out what the bliss point is, if it's too much heated up or too salty.
Coming up with that bliss point, that was just an amazing finding when I read the book. Was that the sugar, salt, and
Fat.
and the studies that are done, actually some of the place was in Canada, in Guelph, where my daughter studied the first few years. But this is exactly like you said. It goes to a lab, and they're putting different amount, and they're making sure that this is where the people likes it the most. So you go over, people won't take it. You go too low, people won't take it. So you just go at that, and that usually is what we call the bliss point. And this is most likely what contains a little too much sugar, a little too much salt, and then you become addicted. So you got to be careful, and as much as people are obsessed with COVID and they don't want to accept the vaccine, I wonder why people just accept any food. They just eat whatever we introduce to them. I said, the COVID, the vaccine is not good, or whatever junk food we can present is good. I just don't understand. There's some sort of a discrepancy here in the population. But maybe if COVID vaccine was present in junk food, there you go. Let's do this. We'll make money.
Well, I mean, I had Gene Schumacher on and Dr. Shapiro on my last broadcast, and we were talking about toxins, and we were talking about how in the United States that the food isn't regulated as the same way as it is in the UK, and that in the United States they have something called generally recognized as safe. So they don't necessarily, they maybe make the food industry monitor themselves, which I don't know how that works out, but some of the ingredients they just have never been tested. And as long as it doesn't come up that somebody can be harmed by it, it stays in. And then when it does come up that somebody could be harmed by it, they just find another ingredient that might be chemically altered just a little bit differently, but now they can call it a different ingredient and they can put that in until we figure that out. So it's to trust that the shelf that carries the cigarettes and the shelf that carries these foods, that they're both going to be trustworthy. We have to get more educated about that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so we have one more true or false question, carbs make you fat.
Oh, that's not false. It has a tendency. It depends what carbs. Again, we got to make
Right.
a distinction. So in the whole plant-based diet, we have lots of carbs, but there's the good carbs, the carbs that comes from fruits, vegetables, legumes. Those are all very much adequate carbs, and those are perfect. And it's actually perfect for diabetes, and it's very well proven. And there's the wrong carbs, that are placed into the food that we've been talking, the processed food, and those are very full of sugar. And especially also being careful about the ingredient that says, or the place that says sugar free. They usually will use something that will be in the effect of giving you the sensation that it is sweet, and actually change the way you analyze in your brain that. And eventually, when you're subject to the normal sweetness of whatever chocolate or a coffee, whatever you used to put sugar, you tend to put more. So be careful. All these quote unquote no calories, no sugar, and everything free. They know again how to kind of use the brain into making the change so that you think it is amazing and it is good, but on the long term has an impact on how you perceive anything you eat in the future. So stick
Yeah.
stick to the real thing. Like if you're a Canadian like me, stick to the maple syrup. Gotta be careful again. I'm just kidding.
Right. Well, there's just really a lot of confusion because they have those low carb diets. And so people think a carb is a carb, but obviously it's not. And if it's in a crinkly package, it's a different kind of carb than if it's something that you pulled out of the ground or pulled off of a tree.
Totally
And
true.
so that's really important to make that distinction. So we have a question, and Jamie wants to know. She said, a month ago, I began whole food plant-based and diagnosed with endometriosis and PCOS. I've gained about double my weight. I jog 4 times a week, do hit in weights. Advice.
So I'm assuming the diagnosis was made prior to eat, because the way I'm reading it, I almost feel like, oh, I start plant food based and then I have all these wrong thing going on
Ah,
with me.
yeah.
It just takes a little bit of time, and it's well proven. There's many, many studies that shows that going into whole plant based will, on the long run, because you don't want to get discouraged. You're just starting. It's only been a month that things will improve. Now, is it going to completely remove the endometriosis? Well, for some people it did, but a lot of time it's going to significantly improve. Same thing with the weight. You got to wait. You have to think about your system, that for any reason you're more has more chance for you to become irregular and have what we call the PCOS. Not everybody's going to become like that. But if your system has adapted this way and tend to, stay in the same weight, you have to think that the system is intelligent and is trying to stay there. So you have to be continuous working on and, do diligently your whole plant based. So, you're exactly the type of individual that I like to be able to assist into their progression and try to help them to turn this around and make sure that you're persistent. So it's actually very interesting, and you may have other questions coming up after, but that brings me to something that is so important. So when it comes to this new year, we all make some resolution, and weight loss is probably one of the at the top. So everybody wants to lose weight, and we try all sorts of things. There's millions and millions of dollars that are spent every year on trying to find the best way for me or anybody to lose weight. Which after usually, I think they give the date as January 21st. People just change their mind,
Yeah.
and all the money is lost. So it's so in itself, there's many studies that have shown that. And it may not even have anything to do an absolute on whole plant-based diet when you think about weight loss. But the studies, that probably one of the first study, they had reviewed anything that the people do. If it was whole plant-based, if it was low fat, low carbs, just at the beginning, let's say that. The one that lost the weight is the one that stick to the plan. So if you don't keep going with what you're trying to accomplish and you don't change and you don't let everybody trying to convince you the other way, you most likely will see a result. Do I believe that the whole plant-based diet is the way to go? Yeah, because it not only helps you to be able to eat the right thing, it helps people to, get back to a more normal weight. And we're making sure also that we keep track of everything else that could happen in your body, which is often related to inflammation. So that's why I think that the whole plant-based is the best way to go. So, simple and stick to the plan. Stick to the plan. Don't try to change and start progressively. So we know how we are, and you want to run a marathon, so you want to make sure you're going to run 10 kilometers the first week. You're just making sure that you're going to not being able to be successful if you push too much. So you go progressively, you go at one something like, going from walking to run 5 kilometers, and then you progress in the running. It's the same thing for what you're eating. You can't just say, I'm going to strictly eat 500 calories for the next year. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So you have to go with something that makes sense and stick to the plan. So it's another good example of being able to be followed by one of the plant-based physician that is there to help you to make sure that you maintain your plan and stay healthy.
Yes, and especially when you have these conditions that and somebody like you, especially with those conditions, you would be very helpful with that. And I think people are just so used to going on diets, and they're used to just saying, I'm just going to do this for this short period of time, get my result, and then I'll go back to the way I was. But the way that people are eating now, it's not just that they have extra weight, it's that they have diseases. And so this really has to be a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. So it goes with, a little bit, the train is coming, so it's possible you may hear some noise. No, it's been pretty good. Usually, when it starts, I put silent and I don't talk. What were you, okay, get me back on track.
About that it's a lifestyle, it's not a diet, and that we have to really have a different mindset about it.
So it goes a little bit to what I mentioned that very last time I talked, the inflammation. You don't realize what's happening in your body, and we all think about weight. For us, it's weight, weight and diet, quick fix. But eventually what it does when you and it's not everybody that is obese that has the chronic disease, but a lot of time this progression eventually makes that your body is inflamed. And we all respond differently, even if there's a lot of association, but we all respond differently. For some people, it's going to be an autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis or lupus. For some other people, it's going to be obesity, and some other high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes. Now, the problem with these is that, like, besides high blood pressure, heart disease, you don't know that it's going on. You can check the cholesterol, but the majority of us don't have a clue what's going on until you have a heart attack, which now happen a lot younger. So again, good example. People think, well, this is family related. No, it is related to the fact that in your family, you all have the same lifestyle. And it's been proven time and time again that if you take an individual and put them in the right environment with the right food, the right activity, decrease stress, that you can reverse the condition. So, that's why lifestyle medicine exists. This is just to be able to reverse all these population. And when you look at the population in the United States, we don't have a good life expectancy. We spend a lot of money. Our life expectancy compared to a lot of countries, and I have that in every presentation that I do. It's one of my first slides, and say, we got to wake up. You guys probably don't know the numbers, but that's what it is. So our life expectancy is lower than many countries that don't have the money we have, and we spend 4 times more money, if it's not more, than all these other countries. We need to try to reverse that, and we need to be able to tell the lobbying, the food industry, that this needs to be turned around.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that that's something that a lot of people aren't aware of. They think of fat, right? And they think of fat on the body. And usually it seems like it's mostly in the waistline. And for people, when they think about weight loss, they think, I just want to have a slim waist. You know, there may be other areas too that they want to reduce, and then that they'll be happy. But I don't know if maybe you want to talk about the subcutaneous fat and the visceral fat, because I
Mm.
think people think that when you're overweight, when you have fat, it's what you're looking at,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, so that's a good point, because people, the research is very clear now that it's the visceral fat, so the intra-abdominal, what the fat that's around our organ inside, that is the most inflamed, and that's the one that is responsible for most of the inflammation and disease and chronic disease. So usually women are a little bit more protected because we tend to gain our fat into, let's say, our butt, which is not the area that is the most dangerous one. I'm not saying that everybody wants to have a bigger, butt, but it is definitely different. So now we're starting, some physician, I've done that, measuring the waist circumference, in order to help us to say, okay, it's not just your weight, but your waist circumference. Because sometimes, as an example, the BMI, which is an indication now that we use quite a bit as physician or anywhere, which is a calculation with your weight and your height. It's not a perfect correlation to show us if really you have a higher BMI, lower BMI. So the best thing would be to measure really your percentage of body fat. But the other thing that is very helpful for us is to measure the waist circumference. And it helps us because a lot of time when people are starting to lose in centimeter, they're starting to get healthier and they don't see the change in their BMI. And you're able to show them, look, so the waist circumference is getting smaller, your chronic disease is getting better. The rest will come a little bit later. So because we only know weight and BMI, so we're not paying attention. So it's very important that we stress that out. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, because I think that people just don't realize that when you have fat in your body, it doesn't just go in your butt or in your belly, that it's actually going into your organs. And I mean, if you would dissect a human body that had excess fat on it, you could pull out a heart, right? And it would look kind of like when people buy meat, maybe in the grocery store, and they see the marbleized things in within it. That's fat, right?
Absolutely. And there's a lot more when you think about that. People don't realize that in the meat that they buy, when they say that it's a lean, it's usually still has a lot of fat. So it's, they're trying to use all sorts of terms. So people say, well, I think I'm buying the less, but you're not buying as much as you think you are. So going back to, and I hope that people won't be too offended, but, I had seen quite a bit in doing surgery. The amount of fat that you can see into the abdomen is pretty impressive. It often will do exactly like you said. The fat eventually insert into our liver and will produce some change in our liver when you measure liver function, and then you can tell that people are starting to have issues. So you accumulate fat in your liver, in your muscle. And that is often one of the biggest things that makes our body resistant sometimes to the work of what we call the insulin to help us to grab the glucose and use it properly. And that's how you develop, diabetes, being resistant. So that's a big problem. It's actually a little bit too much fat as opposed to what people think. It's not so much the carbs, but it's a lot of what is transported as fat into all these organs.
Okay, great. We have another question. Anna says, I've heard that increased protein keeps you fuller longer. Should I add more beans? I'm doing a relaxed starch solution. I get hungry again in a few hours. Advice. So I guess the starch solution is something that Dr. John McDougall, it's a version of a plant-based diet, and I think that he is more about having rice and potatoes and starch, and he thinks that that's the best way to go about it, and it's probably better than a standard American diet, and it depends on how you want to tweak it and what you want to adopt. So what do you have to say about that, Dr. Fontaine?
Again, I think I've discussed a little bit at the beginning. It's really an individual element. So here we go again. I have nothing to say about Dr. McDougall. He has had some very amazing result, and he's been in the field of plant-based for so long. But it all depends who you are. Are you somebody who's fighting with your weight? Are you having any chronic disease? Are you exercising? And if you're hungry, then you obviously, like a lot of women that I see in my office, oftentimes, surprisingly, you don't eat enough calories. So we need to make sure that you eat in the right calories, but there's not enough. So you got to make sure that you eat and when you're hungry, and especially when you eat the whole plant-based. So you're going to end up having a good plate, and you say, well, this is enough. But it doesn't take much for your body to absorb this amazing food. So you may be hungry 2 hours later, and you got to eat. And what you're going to eat is, amazing low-calorie density. So I think maybe the problem here is, so she's hungry, she doesn't eat enough, And most of the time, even if you're not paying attention and you calculate, let's say you do the MyFitnessPal, you're going to realize that you eat sufficient amount of protein. So you don't need more than like a 10%, 15%. And if you do it randomly, you'll be amazed that unless you're really eating, like I've seen people eating chocolate bar or chips in the morning, it's hard to hit the protein. But if you're on a whole plant-based diet, you should be okay with your protein. And again, it's in relationship to how much you're active.
Right. Okay, very good. So Angel wants to know, she said, I'm pregnant and crave junk food to make me feel better for the moment. What can I do to overcome the craving?
Oh, that's a tough time. I will say that when I was pregnant, I was just like you, Angel. The only thing, especially at the beginning, some women, will have a lot of nausea. And the only thing that was appealing to me was junk food. No, for me, the only thing that was appealing was French fries. It wasn't so bad when you think about it. So I can relate it to you. And I think, for a short period of time, the important thing when you're pregnant and you're not able to eat is to be able at least to put in your body what you tolerate. So if it's what you tolerate is a little less whole plant-based, it's okay for that period of time, so that at least you got something in your body. It's a tough time. So, you do your best to, get in. And I hate to think that you want to be perfect with a whole plant-based. It's a tough time. If you haven't experienced, even it's not every pregnant woman that experienced this significant nausea at the beginning. So if you haven't experienced it, it's hard to believe what I say now. But I say, listen, make sure that you put something in your body, so at least you bypass this time, which is usually around 8-12 weeks. And then after, you're able to go back into your amazing diet.
Oh, you're giving them grace, and that's nice. Okay. So Laura wants to know, she said, whole food plant-based, I hit a plateau for 2 weeks. What can I do? Should I exercise more? Yeah, I think a lot of people are struggling with those plateaus.
Yeah, that's a good question. And plateaus are very, very common. So I don't know where you are exactly in your, has it been 6 months that you're on a whole plant-based diet and then suddenly you hit a plateau? It doesn't matter. A plateau is a good thing as long as you're not regaining. Hitting the plateau is good, and it is good to realize after a certain time being on the plateau, like I was talking earlier, your system is intelligent and wants to get back to where it was. So it is okay for a short period of time to try to play with your system. So doing a little bit more exercise that week that could be consisting of weight, being careful of not injury, obviously. Or the other thing, another week, another time, to do an intermittent fasting, which doesn't have to be excessive. I often tell people that if you have your dinner at 6 and you don't eat anything until 6 o'clock in the morning, it's intermittent fasting. But if it's something that you already do, then you may want to experience a little bit more and attempt to do a 16 hours or a 24 hours just to play and see if you're going to be able to challenge your body to do it differently. So I wouldn't necessarily, I don't say that plateau is not good. It's actually good as long as you don't regain. Do not get discouraged, and you can attempt a few little things like that.
Yeah, I think so many people worship the scale. And you were talking earlier about how you take measurements also. So maybe they can have non-scale victories, right? Where maybe they didn't lose pounds, but maybe they lost some inches, or maybe some of their clothes are fitting a little looser.
Yeah, it's a good point that I haven't emphasized on this. You're absolutely right. Just, make sure that your success are there. If you've lost some significant amount of weight and now you're plateauing, just be happy at the moment, enjoy your success and then continue, your route. And yes, the measurement, you can maybe ask somebody else to measure your abdominal circumference so you can see the progression. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, unless you've been overweight all your life, for many people, it started off where they just year by year, they gained and gained and gained. They didn't just gain 100 pounds in 30 days, usually. Right?
Yeah, you're right. And actually, it's surprising, but now we're gaining a lot faster.
Yes.
But you're right. Usually it's a progression, but we want to lose weight fast.
Oh, yeah.
We gain progressive, but we want to lose it fast. So it's the same thing. And most of the time, if you lose it progressively, your chance is better that you're going to stay there. So appreciate as much as possible those plateau and keep working at it. It is much better than suddenly doing those yo-yo. That is as far as I'm concerned, a no, we don't want to play that game.
Oh, absolutely. And I had some videos on my YouTube channel with Dr. Greger because he wrote a really great book called How Not to Diet. And he gave a lot of really great weight loss tips in the book. And he talked about adding garlic powder. He talked about black cumin seeds and cayenne pepper. So I encourage everybody to watch those videos. I'll try to put some links to them. And even to just get the book, because Dr. Greger is really fabulous with a lot of the hints that he has. And I think that one of the hints that he did give was he talked about drinking water. So do you want to talk about that?
Absolutely. It's such a and I will say myself, I'm a terrible person as far as drinking. I have to force myself thinking about that, but it is amazing. Especially if you have a tendency to be hungry all the time, it could be a wrong signal. And you have to, first of all, stop and try to be a little bit aware of the moment of what's happening before you attempt to do anything. But the other thing is definitely, let's keep track of how much you drink. Be careful, because people tend to overdo it. But, usually we say between 6 and 8, and that depends how tall, how big you are. So you got to take it as a grain of salt when you say the amount. But around 6 to 8 ounces glass of water a day is the way to go. All depends who you are too. If you're in menopause and you have a tendency to go to the bathroom twice at night, you're probably going to look at me and say, no way, I'm not going to drink all this. So you have to play a game and make sure you don't drink maybe after 7 o'clock so that it doesn't make it worse. So drink during the day as opposed to get your trouble and then needed to go to the bathroom more often at night. Also, it's a little problem that you encounter when you get a little older.
Well, the plumbing works, and that's important. So maybe not at the convenient time, but if it's working, we shouldn't argue with it.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. So let's see. I think we have another question. Jay says 95% compliant, but gaining weight, rarely any alcohol. Fairly high fruit, though. Could it be the fruit? 6 to 7 portions per day. Portions, not whole pieces. I have 50 pounds to lose. Recommendation.
Well, again, it all depends where you are in all your work, and if it's something that you're barely starting, it's you don't want to get too discouraged at this moment. And we tend also to put a little bit too much fruit as opposed to vegetables. So try to see if you're paying attention to the vegetable, and when do you eat those fruits. So again, when we were talking about, we normally do some intermittent fasting without paying attention. Well, if you eat at night, it doesn't help your body to be able to respond correctly. So make sure that you don't necessarily eat at night. When you say I'm in 95% compliant, I don't know what that 5% is. It's like people telling me I only have a glass of wine, but the glass of wine is that much. I don't know. I don't want to say anything wrong about what you just said, but you always have to be careful. And 50 pounds, give yourself time. For starting to lose, it's not easy. I mean, if you start at 350 pounds, 50 pounds is not too difficult usually. But if you start, and you're not too far from your ideal weight and you just want to be the best that you were, it will take a little bit more time. And therefore, you got to be, sticking to the plan, and make sure that you do have the exercise. So again, these little half-hour bout of exercise is one thing, but it's important that you keep moving during the day to help your body to metabolize and use all the food, even if it's good food, that you use it properly. So hopefully that helped too. Whoops, you're silent, Amy.
What would you say if somebody was asking you, I just found out about this lifestyle, what would be the first thing that maybe they should add or eliminate? What would you suggest that should they start?
I think at the beginning it's exploration. It's always these people that will say, it all depends. Just if you're very, very sick and you need to do a substantial change in you need to remove every, meat or anything. But let's say that this individual is just saying, oh, wow, this could be interesting. I have a borderline blood pressure or diabetes. Then it's good to explore and try things before. Because if you do the drastic, it's like trying to do a marathon and you start 10 kilometers this week, it's a good chance you will never do it. So please take time to explore, and progressively remove what is not good into all the surrounding that you have in the house. So it does takes a little bit of time. When you start eating whole plant-based, you will realize that a lot of the ingredients are different than what you used to eat. So you have to add and buy new things. And sometimes people get discouraged. So go progressively, try, 1, 2 recipe a week, buy new element for these recipe. And that gives you the chance to progressively change what you're eating. So, I know some school will think about drastic change. You remove everything, you buy everything new. You can do that. But I think that for the majority of people that I've seen, a progression into this is the best. And, having people in your family that does it with you so that you're not feeling alone. So if you're 6 in your family and you're the only one, it's going to be a little bit difficult. So I think it is very important that you have people there just for the accountability. So sometimes the physician is a good accountability partner and say, okay, where are you in your health? Let's do this a little bit different so that you maintain what we would call the optimal health for people.
Yeah. So what would you say would be the first, if they were just to eliminate one thing, one group of food, what would you suggest?
Most likely, I mean, it all depends, but most likely I'll start with, the pasta, the bread, all these that tend to have too much. If they have too much, I mean, I always have to see, I observe the people, and when I ask them to do a 3-day diary so that I'm able to look and say, where is the problem? So, I don't really like to see one thing that needs to be eliminated, but it all depends. Some people have allergic reaction, and then my answer to you would be different. And I say, well, the milk is the first thing, the nuts. It all depends what we're looking for. So I don't necessarily target one agent.
Okay, great. And what foods do you think that to add in that would be weight loss favorable? What would
Oh
you
my
say?
gosh, just discover all the new vegetable. Go to the grocery and try new vegetable. Something that you've never did before. Just go online, Google it, and chart, whatever. Do a recipe with that. You gotta discover the fact that there's plenty of vegetable in the grocery or fruit that you're not familiar with, not aware. If the vegetable is too expensive, please go in the frozen area. You can buy not the prepared stuff that has all the mix together, because these unfortunately are considered fast food, but the vegetable. I'm talking about if you want to buy some vegetable, it's too expensive in the fresh one. You can go in the frozen one and you can have a lot of vegetable that you can use and pile into your own recipe. So yeah, the vegetable. I mean, the beans are amazing. You can discover so many things with the new beans. The red, the quinoa, also the rice, the different type of rice, the couscous, the barley. There's no end to it. The bulgur. It's all these that are just amazing, and that you can try every day to cook and prepare a batch so that you have plenty of it for the week.
Oh, excellent. And you just got to give yourself grace, like you were saying before, that it's not going to be perfect, and it's just kind of a thing that you can lean into and slowly see the changes happening. And of course, as a physician, you would probably want to tell people maybe that have diabetes and are on medication and blood pressure medications and so forth. What do you want to tell them about that if they would adopt this lifestyle?
Well, you better be aware that if you start doing better, there will be a change in how much medication you need to. So for the people that are diabetic, it's very good to make sure that your physician is aware or being followed by a plant-based, so that we can help you to adjust the amount of insulin or medication you take. Same thing for blood pressure. People don't realize they start having much better diet, their blood pressure goes down, they start on medication, and they start being dizzy. So most likely that needs to be adapted, adjust the medication. So again, let's make sure that your primary care physician is aware of your attempt to be on a plant-based diet.
Well, very good, very good. And let's just talk a little bit more about the plant-based telehealth. That you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so plantbasedhealth.com is a group of physicians. We're probably about 9 now. I started about a year ago with Laurie Marbas. It's an amazing way now that unfortunately we have COVID. It's in a virtual environment, and we're able to see people that needs help to change their lifestyle and improving their health, looking for optimal health, reversing disease like diabetes or high blood pressure or elevated cholesterol. So you can go online and what you just showed, the pbtelehealth.com, and you're able to schedule with the physician that are available, and we'll be happy to be present and help you. Like I mentioned, most of us, well, all of us are lifestyle medicine board certified. I'm the only one for the moment that is specialized as an OBGYN as well, and a crazy exercise physiologist. So I'll be happy to see you for all the crazy things that I'm interested in.
Well, yeah, there won't be any lack of conversation. and they can know if they would watch previous broadcasts, if they didn't get a chance to see, that they can probably say almost anything to you and you wouldn't be shocked. And I think that people can be I would be very comfortable with you talking about things that sometimes
I
people
think
are a little.
it's interesting. I think people are shy of, and I'm like, oh my gosh, come over. Just let us discuss. Let us helping you to get in a better life. The young one too. It doesn't have to be necessarily just the older people that are needed of reversing. The young people that want to stay healthy, that want to change their life for the future. I think that plant-based is a good place to be.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I really want to thank you for coming back again. We have a few broadcasts that you've done with us and about menopause and pregnancy and exercise and now weight loss. So many different things that you helped us with and gave a lot of great pearls of wisdom. And you guys, if you watching or listening, type in the comments, what's your takeaway for today, so that when people are looking at the comments, that they can see what they might want to expect. And please stay tuned for a special announcement. And I wanted to thank Just Task Voice for doing our countdown. And she also did our promotions. And Just Task Voice, who's coming up next?
Trying to get your cholesterol, triglycerides, or blood pressure down? Dr. Nicole Harkin is a triple board certified preventative cardiologist. She specializes in cardiac optimization through precision and lifestyle medicine. Bring your questions Wednesday, January 12th, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, on Be Green with Amy, live.
And I do want to thank all of you who have been watching and listening, and you guys are liking and sharing and subscribing, because it's so important to me and to Dr. Fontaine to get the word out about this lifestyle and about how you can achieve and maintain a healthy weight loss and a healthy lifestyle as a result. And if you would like to join me and Dr. Fontaine, I'm going to be signing off with my Be Strong, Be Well, and Be Green. Are you ready, Dr. Fontaine?
All right.
Yeah, you're old hat at this. Until I see you guys again, remember, be strong, be well, and be green.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Dr. Fontaine.
Bye-bye.
Now you can listen to Be Green with Amy expert interviews wherever you go. Listen while walking, meal prepping, or traveling. Find Be Green with Amy on Apple, Google, Alexa, Amazon, or virtually anywhere you find podcasts. Be strong, be well, and be green with Be Green with Amy.